talk about culture shock just for a few minutes. Some of you might be taking groups to very, very different cultures, and some of you might be taking groups to places where you don't think it's a different culture, but it really is. So one of the most common illnesses that students encounter when they go on short-term mission trips or short-term impact trips like this group is called culture shock. Now, here's some definitions. Culture shock was invented, that term was invented by this anthropologist in the 1950s. And it's this sense of being disoriented in a new culture. This is my favorite definition, a somewhat psychotic state that people get into. So maybe some of your kids will start acting a little bit psychotic. This one at the end, it says it's a mental illness which is seldom recognized by the affected. A reaction to being in a different culture. Take your pen and somewhere on your notes at the top, I want you to write your name. Write your name. Okay, how'd that feel?
Oh, pretty familiar.
Easy? Okay, put your pen in your other hand and write your name.
You think my name is
And then do it again. And do it again, 3 times.
You get really good.
How did that feel? How does that feel?
Challenging.
Great, challenging.
I never.
Oh, I knew I'd have an ambidextrous person in the room. But except for Brooke, it feels pretty challenging, right? Something that you do automatically that's so easy is all of a sudden different. And it's all of a sudden difficult. And that's culture shock. All the stuff that was automatic here will seem very different and very difficult in South Africa, in Argentina, in downtown Puyallup, downtown Seattle, Las Vegas, wherever you're going. So these are the symptoms of culture shock, all of the kind of clinical symptoms, and you have them on your handout. So that's all the scientific words, but the symptoms kind of in layman's terms, kids might start to feel homesick, they might start to withdraw, they might want to sleep more than normal. They might want to eat more than normal. They might fall into unexplainable fits of weeping or stereotyping of the host nationals. If you notice kids saying, all the people here are so dumb, or the people here, why don't they just get a job? They're so poor, couldn't they just get a job? All this kind of stereotyping comes from culture shock. So those are some of the symptoms of culture shock. And I know you guys have heard of culture shock before, so I'm going through this part kind of fast. The stages of culture shock, honeymoon, everything's beautiful and wonderful when you first arrive. That's the fun stage. And for some of your groups, you might get into the flight and fight stage. On a short-term trip, some of your kids won't have culture shock and some of them will. It just depends partly on their own experience on the mission field or overseas. I was talking about the mission field. But yeah, if they have had no experience in a different culture before, they might have really bad culture shock. Or if they're very experienced in travel, maybe they won't have it too badly. So fun, flight is withdrawal. Fight is when they start to get really angry and really not like the culture, stereotype the nationals. And eventually they'll go into the fit stage when they recover. If they're on a longer term trip, they might have another crash, another flight and fight, and then they become fit. Okay, so some of the causes of culture shock. Loss of cultural cues. Okay, so things that you think mean one thing mean something different. This, what does this mean?
okay.
Good job. Okay, if you go to the Middle East and you do this, people will be very, very angry. What about this one? If you go to some parts of Latin America and you do this, it's a terrible insult. Okay, I did this one with Brandon earlier. What's this? This is the opposite. To us, do you think that seems nice? That seems pretty insulting, but what does it mean in Argentina?
Means I don't know and I don't care.
Okay,
Or I don't know and I'm not sure.
but it's not necessarily negative. It could be a little bit negative, but not as negative as we see it. What about this one?
Crazy.
Okay, so it's generally not very good for us, but this is another Argentinian one. What does this mean in Argentina? Do you know? Anybody? It means you have a phone call. Someone's calling you. So if an Argentinian did that to you, they don't necessarily think you're crazy. Oh, this is my favorite one, Dominican Republic. This is Dominican Republic. What does that mean in Dominican Republic?
I want to kiss you.
No, it means you're pointing. Which way should I go? That way. So for the group that's going to DR, if they look like they want to kiss you, they're just pointing. So all of these are just like funny, cute things, but all these things can build up, and they can sort of contribute to culture shock. Because if you get on the wrong side of one of those things, you could have a bad incident with the local people. So those are sort of some, innocent cultural cues. Also, ambiguity of the living situation, depending on where you're going. You don't know if you can drink the water. You don't know what you can eat. You don't know what to do with the toilet paper after you go to the bathroom. There's all kinds of things that add up and compound. And the third one, having your own values brought into question. For the group going to South Africa, I'm not sure if any of them are here, but when you go to South Africa, all of a sudden you hear people talking about the blacks and the coloreds. And for us, we're like, what? Oh yeah, he's a black. Oh yeah, he's a colored. I've been to South Africa. That seems very racist to us, but to them it's just normal. That's just how they refer to those people groups. And for the folks going with Mrs. Kelly to the homeless shelter, the smells of the homeless people, I mean, that can grind on you if you're there every day for 4 days. It's like, oh. Okay, so these are all things that contribute to culture shock. So what about your I-term trips? What might trigger your I-term students? That's something I challenge you to think about as you head out. How will you prepare them for these challenges? And if you start to see them going into culture shock, how will you respond? Also, when you come back, you've had these fresh experiences of culture shock, I hope that you will notice that when you see these things in your international students here, that it could be culture shock. Okay? I'm sure you've never seen any of those things in your internationals here at Cascade, especially that last one. So when you come back, continue to have that same attitude towards the internationals who are right here on campus, on our own mission field here at Cascade. Things that you can do with the internationals here and with your kids on your trip. Sleep is big. Having fun. Now, here I'm thinking about the internationals here on campus. Asking questions instead of assuming their motives. Patience, benefit of the doubt, and connecting them both with the host parents and with people like Darlene, and Dr. Frederick, Brooke, Wes, myself. This is the part that for I-term might even be worse than culture shock. Re-entry shock. When these kids go, and no matter where they're going, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, and they have a profound experience, and then they come back here, they could be jolted. So re-entry shock, there's a dissonance for these kids. They feel like they've had this experience, but then they come back here and they notice in Argentina people make $350 a month, and here people spend $350 a month on Starbucks. I mean, whoa, that's some dissonance, right? The superficiality of the culture. I think the most significant thing is actually these two. A seeming lack of genuinely concerned friends who really want to listen to their stories. So I've asked my friend Darlene to come and help me out with this. Darlene, I hear you just got back from I-term. How was it?
Oh, it was so good. Can I tell you about it? Okay, anyway, so let me tell you, we went there and there were all these people, and oh my gosh, like the food was amazing.
Really?
Oh my gosh, and the people were so nice, and I just can't even begin to tell you. Oh, I gotta tell you some more about
Okay,
it.
did you see my new manicure? Isn't it cool?
Yeah, well, what do you wear? Can I tell you more?
Yeah, well, I'm going to hot yoga right now, so maybe a little bit later. Sorry. So, it's a little bit extreme, but this is the experience that most of your kids will have, or a lot of them will have. I have had this on so many short-term mission trips. I'm sure you guys have had it too. You come back and you have these stories, and people don't want to listen to them, or they only want to listen to a little bit. And maybe you haven't been trained to be very articulate in your story. I mean, Darlene did a pretty good job of that. She didn't really tell me what happened. She just kind of was talking around it. And so for me, I'm like, well, that wasn't really that interesting. It was all vague, right? So we want to help students as they go through that process. So there's 3 common reentry reactions. The assimilators, they just slide back into life as normal. They might seem like they're adjusting well back to life at Cascade, but they haven't really integrated what they've learned, and they haven't really changed. The alienators, who might be very negative about Cascade, about American culture, all of the affluence and all the superficiality, but eventually they'll probably come back into the home culture out of the need to belong somewhere. And we don't want either of these reactions. We would really like integrators who expect that dissonance and they're able to identify how they've changed and ways that they can integrate their change into life back home. So some ways to help your students re-enter well. One is to anticipate. If you're going, no matter where you're going, if you're going into a different culture where you expect kids to have any kind of dissonance, talk to them about it before you come back. How is this going to make you feel when you get back to affluent America? Encourage them to be balanced and encourage them to find one person who will debrief them. Even help them identify the name of that person. One person who won't be like I was to Darlene, but who will actually listen to the tough questions and listen to the long story. It's really important that each of your kids be heard about what happened to them on iTerm. And then I think this is a great idea to have them practice their story. So when they come back, they aren't like Darlene. Well, oh, it was wonderful, it was awesome, and that was a great experience. But to give a specific story. I met a man named Muhammad, and he has emailed me he had a dream of Jesus. Can I tell you more about him? Now that is a story I want to hear more about. So help kids to think of one specific picture to paint for that 30-second encounter that would reel people in to want to hear more of the story. And then they could even think about a medium version of their story and a longer version of their story. How will they tell people about what God's done in their lives on iTerm? I think we have a crucial role to really help them as they re-enter to integrate what they've learned into their lives. And the thing on the back is a thing I found online. I thought it was a helpful letter to parents because it addresses some of the same issues, like helping parents to really think specifically about the questions they ask their kids, not just be like, was it good? No. But to ask specific questions. What part did you like best? What was hardest? What did you learn about God, yourself, and others through this experience? So I hope you guys will be thinking intentionally about not only how you deal with culture shock on iTerm, if you encounter it, but the re-entry process. And also, when you come back and you have internationals in your classroom, please remember that they're going through culture shock too. And they're here for much longer, so they're much more likely to go through it. I know our Chinese students who just came in will probably be hitting it pretty hard pretty soon, because they've been here a couple months. So please be kind to them, and we're here to help. All of us who teach ESL and work with internationals. So thanks for your time.
Yay.